You know, it's funny. Have you ever noticed that the most unforgettable moments, the ones that really stick with you, are almost always the ones you never saw coming? Well, today's story is all about that. It's about friendship, a little bit of chaos, and the incredible magic of having no plan at all.
And it all kicks off with this one simple phrase. Bro, let's just go. It's the kind of thing you say that can either vanish into thin air or, completely change the course of an afternoon, and maybe even a friendship. For this group, this was the spark. This was where the adventure really began.
And that's really the heart of it, isn't it? This whole adventure was about one thing: throwing the schedule out the window, ignoring that nagging to-do list, and just embracing the mess. This is the story of how a group of friends found out firsthand that, sometimes the absolute best plan is to have no plan whatsoever.
So, let's set the scene. Picture this. It's a typical afternoon right after class. You know that feeling, right? The air is just thick with the stress of assignments and deadlines breathing down your neck. But then, one single idea just slices right through all that routine.
And of course, every friend group has these two sides, right? You've got the resistance, the practical ones, the planners. Aryan's worried about work. Sana's worried about, not getting lost forever. And then you have the instigators, who are just running on pure vibes. It's a classic standoff between we should and but what if we did?
And this is the line that just tips the scales. It's brilliant, really. Kabir isn't promising a perfect trip. He's promising a good story. And all of a sudden, the fear of something going wrong gets completely overshadowed by the fear of missing out on a great memory. And just like that, the trip is on.
Okay, so as you can probably guess, with a trip that has exactly zero planning, the chaos did not waste any time showing up. I mean, it basically started the second they all walked out the door. And here we go. Aryan drops the bomb that confirms their very first detour. You can just feel that sinking feeling in your stomach, can't you? That moment you realize you've completely overshot your stop. For Aryan, it's pure panic. But for the story, it's the first real test. This is pretty much the unofficial guide for how to turn a mistake into a memory. It starts with getting hopelessly lost, followed by a healthy dose of panic, but step 3 is the game changer. You rebrand it. It's not a screw-up, it's an adventure. And pay attention to step 4. That quiet smile, that's the first little clue that the whole group is starting to get on board with the chaos. So just as everyone's starting to find their groove, starting to actually enjoy being lost, an outside force shows up to really test them. This is the exact moment the carefree vibe of the trip runs headfirst into a very real and very, very wet reality. And we're back to this dynamic again, only this time the stakes are a little higher. You've got Kabir running on pure optimism on the vibe side, but on the reality side, you have Aryan armed with an actual weather forecast. You can almost feel the air get heavy in that moment, right before everything is about to change. And then the rain hits. And not just a drizzle, I mean a full-on downpour. And that sudden shock, Aryan's frustration just boils over. See, for him, this isn't just about getting soaked. It's total validation for his entire argument. This is the peak tension point, where the price of being spontaneous feels incredibly high. But a moment of crisis can also be a major turning point. The chaos of the storm, this external problem, it actually forces the group together. It literally pushes them into a small space where they have no choice but to find some internal connection.
So there they are, huddled under this tiny shelter, totally soaked, probably cold, and definitely tired. But then, someone starts laughing. And suddenly, that shared misery becomes a shared bond. The simple act of passing around a bag of chips becomes this little ritual of taking care of each other, and it just washes away all that earlier stress.
Oh, this moment is so important. Aryan admits he might have been too intense, but look at what Sana does. She doesn't just say, it's okay. She completely reframes it. She turns his anxiety into a positive, telling him it's not because he's a buzzkill, it's because he cares. That is what real friendship looks like.
And then we get this absolute gem from Kabir, the loudest, most energetic guy in the group. For him to pause in the middle of all this mess and just quietly appreciate the moment, it's huge. It shows that this trip has gotten to everyone, and it's revealing this softer, more thoughtful side of him.
So as the day starts to wind down, the focus isn't really on the wild events anymore. It's about the feeling that's left over. The real souvenir they took home from this trip wasn't something you could hold in your hand. It was something they all carried with them, inside. The ride home is just peaceful. It's filled with that kind of comfortable, worn-out silence.
Aryan is finally truly relaxed. Kabir is so tired he literally falls asleep talking. And Sana quietly snaps a photo to remember it all. This isn't an awkward silence. It's the silence of a group that's been through it together and landed somewhere stronger.
And really, that's the whole point. The strongest friendships aren't always built in perfect, scheduled hangouts. They're forged in the messy stuff, in the wrong turns, the unexpected storms, and the shared snacks under a leaky awning. That's where the real bonding happens.
At the end of the day, the goal of a trip, or really any time spent together, isn't to have it go perfectly according to plan. It's to make memories. And the imperfections, the little disasters, the chaos, those aren't failures. They're the ingredients that make the memories worth telling stories about.
So that leaves me with one final question for you. Think about your own life, your own friends. What was a time when things went completely sideways? A wrong turn that, looking back now, led you to exactly the right place and created a memory you wouldn't trade for anything.